Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy. One of the questions we've received after the webinar that we did with Tim Leach and Norman Marks on COSO versus ISO was what are our thoughts on the risk profile concept that is pretty much the cornerstone of the COSO ERM framework. Since there's nothing really fundamentally new or there's no fresh idea in the COSO ERM, the only key kind of practical application is this concept of risk profile, mapping the risk level, I suppose, against the performance targets and appetites and so on, or mapping performance against the risk level. So that's the broad idea. And by all means, read it. There's a whole appendix in the COSO ERM dedicated to this. Dedicated to this concept of risk profile, and PwC is claiming that it's a new and useful way to talk and communicate risks to the executives. Now, here are my thoughts. I think, just like the rest of the document, the concept of risk profile is quite paradoxical. Because there's a lot of text around the concept, but it never actually goes into deep enough detail to explain and to showcase how to actually calculate and apply it. The whole explanation and the whole examples are so high level that there are literally millions of ways how to physically do it, and it's absolutely unclear what is the intention that the PwC had behind the concept. So there are two possible scenarios that I'm going to investigate for the sake of this video. Scenario number one, it's a risk profile that is quantitatively derived, done with proper math, and potentially could be useful. So if that's the case, if the values of performance and the risk appetites and so on were derived quantitatively, then actually what you discover is that the whole concept of risk profile proposed by PwC is literally Monte Carlo simulation with the distribution or the cumulative distribution turned on the side. So that is literally the innovation that PwC is proposing. In the best case scenario, all risk profile is just a turned upside down typical modeling of numerous scenarios on the performance. And that's what Monte Carlo basically does. That's what we've been doing for years. So the positive scenario is that PwC, being a clever consultant as they are, they have just taken an old concept, quite a common concept in risk management world, kind of turned it upside down, gave it different names, changed the shading and the color coding on the graph, and called it a new amazing product. And that is the best scenario. That is the positive scenario. So what they've done is no harm. They've just taken the good tool and they've kind of redressed it into something new. No harm done. So well done to them. They know how to sell stuff. The other scenario, where some of these numbers are qualitatively derived based on interviews, opinions, or expert judgments, then that is a horrible idea. That is no better than just a typical heat map. It goes through all the same cognitive biases. It's equally flawed in the design. And it's not just useless, it's a dangerous tool. So either it's just a copycat, which is the positive scenario, or it's actually yet another interpretation of fundamentally flawed qualitative risk analysis tool, which we risk professionals trying to get rid of for years. We're doing everything we possibly can to stop doing heat maps and switch to other better decision-making tools. So anyway, those are my thoughts on risk profile. I'm interested in hearing your ideas. I have read through the document. I've spent a lot of time trying to understand the concept and what's behind this. Again, as I said, a caveat for this video, the whole COSO ERM document is absolutely paradoxical. It's almost 300 pages, and yet there is not a grain of practical, detailed implementation. It's all just fluff. Like, the whole text is just fluff, a lot of wishful thinking, a lot of feel-good statements. It's all high-level, mumbo jumbo. There's nothing you can kind of touch or multiply or quantify. Like, there's not. Anyway, that's the impression I got. So even the risk profile, there's a whole appendix on risk appetite, and even that doesn't actually go into enough detail to give you the equations and the Excel methodologies for understanding how it's actually done. So it could have either been done using Monte Carlo, which is then it's just a basic Monte Carlo, there's absolutely nothing unique and new about it, or it could be done qualitatively, and then it's just as bad as all the other qualitative risk analysis tools, which I personally think are a waste of time and an embarrassment for the risk profession, because we've learned so much about human nature, risk perception, and the laws of probability that we can do better than that. So you be the judge where this concept of risk profile sits on the spectrum between Monte Carlo and qualitative. I don't know. It's impossible to tell what exactly the authors meant by this risk profile concept.